Well, good Thursday morning to you, everybody. How you doing? Craig Kann, Mike Mooney, another edition of Elevating You. It's really good to be with you. And we're always trying to help people reach their peak, some career growth conversation. And we do it on Thursday mornings. We really appreciate the following that we've built on this. And Mike, it's good to see you. How you doing today?
I am great, buddy. I am great. Good morning. Good morning. Good to see you. Again, Thursday, here it is. How'd we get here so fast? It's good, man.
Amazing. It feels like it always comes just like lightning, and all of a sudden we're like, hey, what's our topic today? Hey, we got to do this. Hey, we got to get ready. And so here we go again.
Here we go again. But I'll tell you, man, these have been a lot of fun. And again, it continues to blow me away that we're at like episode 18 already. And just the idea, and for the folks who are maybe new or checking us out, is Craig and I have been talking for a while. We've been friends for a while, and our careers have really paralleled, and what we're doing in this next chapter after our corporate gigs. And it was really about thinking, like, what could we do as we've been trying to lift each other up, as we've been trying to elevate ourselves and get into that next level in our practice and our lives. This like germ of an idea popped out, right, Craig? Where it was like, what could we do together that may actually help propel and empower and accelerate others along the way and along the journey? Because we certainly don't have all the answers to this, but we certainly wanted to create a space where people could engage and interact, and we could also do the same to lift each other up.
Yep, that's exactly what it's all about, and it's been a lot of fun. We've had some fun topics and some great engagement with some of the people that are listening, watching, and as you all know, not only do you see it here on the Kann Advisory Group Facebook page, but we post it on LinkedIn and our other platforms, Twitter, wherever you see Mike and I. And normally Jill is with us. Jill is not here today. So it's Mike and I. And I want to, that's how we started anyway.
We're back.
It was,
but we love Jill. We absolutely love Jill.
We miss her. She'll be back with us. Here's what the topic was last time. And we talked about paying experiences forward. And both of us have done some really neat things. You just talked about corporate gigs and some of the things that we've done. I had a TV career. You were in the ad agency world, but also marketing sports, and big time sports. Yes. And so how did we leverage those? How did we use some of those experiences to help move our careers forward? And that was really a topic brought up to show you, those of you that are watching us and hang with us on Thursdays, that you can take some of the things that you've done and actually pay them forward, use them to benefit other people, find new avenues for you to grow your own career. So I want to remind people what we said. And Mike, this was yours, and I'll just let you take it away and give folks a reminder of what you were talking about last week.
Yeah, Craig, it's so important to, that old saying, don't forget where you came from. And I really have taken that to heart in my career, not only my career, but my life as well. And I just think it is so vital for all of us, no matter what stage you're at, to recognize that there are people who are coming behind us. There are people who, like we did at one time, were looking for someone to either like extend a hand either out or down to pull us across or lift us up. And I think that in today's world, we really have that opportunity. And more importantly, I think it should be imperative for all of us to give our time to look back and see how we can help that next generation. How can we help that person that might need our help? So I really believe that our time is valuable. And in that is sharing our story, because within the story, we have the opportunity to inspire. We have the opportunity to help people dream and see something. I mean, I'll tell you, man, from my perspective, it's going to sound kind of funny, but and maybe you felt the same way at some point as you made your transition, as I did in my pivot out. Is if you asked me 3 years ago how I would see myself or how I saw myself, it wasn't how I am today. Like I couldn't quite, I had an idea, but I couldn't quite catch a vision of it because I couldn't quite see it. And it was only through the help of people that I reached out to that were ahead of me, that had been there, that helped me really see what I could do and help me see myself as I see myself now. And I share that specifically, like, this just happened because oftentimes we think about, oh, it had to be 20 years ago. I mean, we can use that help all the time.
I found one of my greatest things that I ever accomplished was learning because I didn't have that experience, learning how to lead a team, learning how to hire people, learning how
Yeah.
to unfortunately make transitions within your team and shift people, or somebody leaves, or you are forced to adapt and have to let somebody go. It's a very difficult thing to do because you care so much about people. And I found my greatest achievement being in mentorship and also inspiring other people to be able to elevate themselves to where they got promoted or they got recruited. And suddenly I had a tall task of saying, how am I going to try to keep them? And I found that to be very rewarding to me because it wasn't about me. You know, one thing about television and now radio that I do on Sirius XM, it's such a me world. And, you know, how was your show today? How did you perform today? I found it to be, obviously I loved it and the rush, and I miss it, to be frank with you, but you know, the radio I still get to do, but it's such a, you know, your career's you're going to this market, then you get to the network level and it's like, wow, you know, look at me. And I always said there were 3 stages of television. One is, wow, I'm on TV. The second one was, wow, I'm really good on TV. And the third one was, big wow, I work in TV. And you go through these stages. And I think we go through those. I share that because I think we go through those in whatever we do. You know, we're all excited for the new job, and then we're all excited about the challenge, and we think we're succeeding. And then all of a sudden it becomes a little bit, not stale necessarily, but you learn the skills. And then, like, where do you go? So you got to find things along the way that make you excited, right? Excited to keep pushing forward.
I think you're spot on. You know, we can tend to get jaded after a while, right? What once was the excitement now just becomes the expectation, you know? And I can tell you that, you know, in my time in professional motorsports, you know, early on, there really was that, oh my gosh, you know, I'm here. I'm part of a team. I got this hard card. I have all access to everywhere we need to go, you know? And then after a while, like, oh my gosh, this is like the 18th race in a row that I've gone to, for crying out loud, you know? But I would always, you know, and honestly, Craig, when at every race that I would go to, and this is through 25 years of being in the sport, at every race I was at, I would always make time before the race that I would walk on the racetrack, because you're allowed to do that before the race.
Okay.
And I would walk up by the grandstands where people were literally pressed up against the fence.
Yeah.
Pressed up against the fence, screaming to their drivers, screaming to the team. And I'd sit there and go, how lucky am I? How did I end up here?
Yeah.
You know, and just taking that moment of gratitude that, look, I didn't do anything special other than work my tail off, and I happen to have some good opportunities and continue to work my tail off. But I think it's also recognizing the appreciation for where, you know, that job and where you're at and what you get to do, and finding those ways to remind yourself that you are fortunate.
Oh, no question about it. We're always blessed with some of those opportunities that we've been given and what we make of them. I shared with people the last time about paying forward through social media and a strategy or a blog series, or showcasing some of the things that you've done, making sure that you include other people's success with that. In other words, it's not all about you. More on that in a second, because we have an interesting question. And the other one is the mentorship aspect. I'll tell you an interesting story. I mean, you just mentioned about going up against the fence at the racetrack, and I've been to Daytona multiple times and been to some races there. And back in the day, I covered Indy when I was working in Michigan, because there were some really big name drivers from the state of Michigan that would drive in the Indy 500. But you know, obviously golf has been my home and my thing, and changed my life. And I've been to the Masters multiple times and every major championship, and was, you know, really fortunate to host at some very big events. Been to the Ryder Cup, not just here in the United States in places like Louisville, but also overseas at places like Valderrama in Spain. And I always felt like, wow, you know, this is really amazing. I mean, look at what I'm getting to do. Look at the backdrop. Look at these players that are sitting around me. I mean, I'm one-on-one with Tiger Woods, and all those things are cool. Yesterday, you know, I do some instructing at Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting to help mentor young sportscasters. And I find that to be one of the most rewarding things I get to do. I do it once a month. I give a day.
Right.
And then I had one extra student that reached out through the guy that runs the program. And he found himself into an internship in junior golf, and he's going around to these big tournaments around the country and something called the Hurricane Tour. And he's got to put together this highlight show of like 30 minutes all by himself, one-man band.
Wow.
And so he showed me, we spent an hour yesterday, and he did some stand-ups, and he's all by himself, putting this together and interviewing people. And my point in sharing that is look, I consult with executives, as do you, with top flight senior executives, and do one-on-one coaching and executive training and speaking and stuff. But to be able to spend a little bit of time free of charge to a student that's trying to find their way in golf and needs to kind of learn the lingo and how they would put together a show, I find that to be something really big. And when you talk about building brand, I think that's important because you're actually doing it through others. I mean, my hope is that Tanner, the young man that I was working with yesterday, will go tell some people, hey, I was really fortunate to get some insight. Maybe 5 years from now, if he's in golf or if he's doing another sport, maybe I helped him with how to produce his show. And I find that to be, one of the best ways we can pull it forward. It's not about you necessarily. It's about helping somebody else. But because of that, your brand goes up.
Well, it does, man. And look, if you take this analogy, we're all farmers. If you have that mindset, we're all farmers. And what you were saying right there, and the way I look at that is we're constantly planting seeds, and these are just relational seeds that we're planting along the way that over time are going to create amazing opportunities, not just for the individual, but again, I've seen it happen where I've had someone reach out to me and say, Mike, you helped me 10 years ago. And honestly, a part of it is like, I may not remember, I may not remember, but when you took that moment, you took that time, and they reach back out and they tell you, or they come to you and say, hey, we can use your help. Would you come in and we want to hire you to do these things? That's just planting seeds, but you're doing it for the right purpose.
Yeah, no doubt. Really good point on that. So that's where we were last time. And I want to do what we always do, which is throw a couple of questions out there. And we had some good ones. Here's one from Kristen. One's related specifically to last week. And then there's another one that we have from one of our very loyal viewers, and we appreciate that. I'll get to that one in a second. So Kristen from Georgia says, how do I leverage my top experience without bragging about myself so much? And I think that's a great question, because let's say you're writing a blog, or you're maybe going on camera and you're doing a video that you're going to put out on a social media platform or whatever it might be. There's a little bit of a danger in making it so much about you. I use the line, make sure all news is not local.
I gotta tell you, I love that line. I gotta tell you, you threw that out there few episodes back, and I wrote that down. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. So the point being that to Kristen, let's say you've done something and you want to write about it, and you helped broker a huge deal with a client, big money, and your company is really benefiting from that, and you've got some economic value attached to it for your own self. That's great. When you tell that story, or when you're talking about it to other people, make sure you include the other person's pain point and led you to be the hero. In other words, who are the other people involved? How did you help them specifically? Talk about the process as opposed to the pat on the back that you were able to get it done. What did you learn from it? What was the strategy that you put into play? How did others receive it? Just make sure that the story involves everybody else that was involved and not just you. People will know by you writing it that you were the leader anyway. Did you have a thought for Kristen?
Yeah, my all of that spot on, Craig. 100% agree with it. I would add one thing, and it's one word. It's called pronouns. Think about the pronouns you're using, right? And that's how you can avoid the ego in this. Get rid of the I and throw in the we. And that lines up perfectly with what you were saying of outlining what the challenge and what the work was and how the team came together. Again, like you said, if you're writing it and you're in that position of leadership and showing pride in your team, just be mindful of the pronouns that you use.
Yeah, that's really, really, really good. Okay. Let me read the other question that goes a while back. And this is from Jason, who's in North Carolina, and he
Oh,
comments
Jason,
quite a
yes.
bit. Yep. So he says, we talked about this a while back about doing extra things on the side outside of your main career job.
Yeah,
Do
a
you
lot of
have a
people
little
doing that.
extra time to do something? Is there another revenue stream you can make that maybe just a couple of bucks on the side, but it's your passion point. It's something else that you like to do. Okay. And because we're in this economy right now, where everybody is trying to figure out, is this my long-term job? Is my company long-term? Where am I going to go? How do I prepare? Which we'll get to here in a second. This is what our topic is today. So that's why I think this ties. How does the side hustle gig economy change when things get back to normal? That's Jason. How does the side hustle gig economy change when things get back to normal? The first thing that I'll say,
Hey man, hey, is normal in air quotes of
yeah, that's what I was just going to say. There will be no normal like we knew it. It's going to be different. So with that, I'll let you take his question. Go for it.
Yeah, man. I would say this. I'm sorry, I was just writing a note back. Jeff Patterson, he's been watching us for several episodes. Just wanted to say good morning to him and thanks everyone for joining in. If you have some comments or thoughts, questions you want to ask, hop on the Facebook page at Kann Advisory.
Please. Yeah.
And please go ahead. I'm watching that right now. I would say this. Look, even before COVID, there was the gig economy out there where people were saying, look, I want to make some extra money. There's technology that will allow me to do that. Okay, that's fantastic. The technology is one part of it. What COVID has given us right now is the other piece of perspective, which is time. You need technology, which is like the channel and the conduit, and then you need the time to do it. And I think right now people are realizing from working at home and trying to figure out, what is this normal going to be? Well, I mean, there are a lot of companies that are saying, hey, you're not coming back to the home office. You're not coming back to the mothership until July of 2021. So guess what? I really believe that this sort of like side hustle gig economy is only going to expand because people are recognizing they have more time, the technology is there and available for them, and people are having time to really kind of discover what are some of these things that I'd like to do, not only from a personal standpoint, but hey man, let's just be realistic too. Some people are being furloughed so that they may not be getting the money that they were. A lot of people are being laid off, right? So I think it's only going to continue to grow.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. And I think you have to be prepared for the long term. You've got to be able to say, okay, wait a second. This little thing that I'm doing, I'm finding passion in it. I'm getting a little better at it. Okay, don't let it go. If things come back to normal, maybe get a little bit busier in your other main job. Don't let this one go. Still carve out an hour, carve out a couple hours a week, a month, whatever it is, to keep that alive, because you don't. I talk about this a lot. We don't want to have to go to our network only in a 911 situation for our jobs. We want to build it and grow it and spend some time nurturing that on a regular basis. And the same thing goes with some of these other things that you can do. So
and what do they say, Craig? When's like my analogy, but we talk.
Here we go. Is this a tree? Is this going to be the tree line?
It's the tree, brother. When's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When's the next best time? Today, right? So when's the best time to start a relationship? Well, before you need it. Create the relationship, nurture the relationship, water it before you need it. And I think that's the bottom line, Yeah,
definitely so. All right. So with that, let's move into today's topic. You ready for that? Here it is. Anticipating the future. I think it ties in perfectly. What you'll need for what they, meaning employers or companies that are seeking talent, for what they might want. Anticipating the future, what you'll need for what they might want. So, let's start with what will you need? Okay. Now, I'm going to show something here in just a little bit that's actually straight research, straight survey from a company that we've all heard of probably, that ties to what companies are looking for. But before we get there, what will you need? And then, Mike, you're going to give me one of your top things. But just in general, what will you need and what will they want? Let's discuss that for a second. What's your overall take on the future and anticipating the future?
Yeah, that's tough, right? Because if we had the magic 8 ball, if we had that crystal ball to say what is it they will want,
Mhm.
it would be a lot easier. It'd be a lot
Yeah.
easier. I think when I look at this question, I look at it from two different perspectives. It's the internal, and then obviously it's the external. The internal being like, okay, well, what do I have to give? Like where are my strong points, or more importantly, where are the places that I think I need to grow in order
Mhm.
to really sharpen my saw? We've talked about this the last couple of weeks around the skills that we're going to need to sharpen our saw, the places where we've got to get uncomfortable and stretch and expand in order for us to really round out who we are, what we have to
Mhm.
offer, and what we
Mhm.
bring to the table.
Yeah. No, I think it's important to think. So I'm gonna take this into a different way.
Do it.
So
Go.
you do the same thing I do. You speak in front of audiences. My guess is you do the same thing that I do prior to, and I always try to anticipate two
Yeah.
things. A, what I think the audience needs or is looking for from me
Mhm.
as the speaker. In other words, what's going to keep them on the edge of their seat? What is it that they came in? Now they might have been forced, it's a conference, or their boss
Right.
said you're going in to listen to this
Right.
speech today or this talk. But secondly, I try to anticipate word of mouth marketing. What will they
Mhm.
say after I'm done? What do
Yeah.
I want them to say? Will they remember that I was the one there in the first place? So anticipation is huge. And anticipation is really big when it comes to where are we all going within our own various industries. So you and I are in the consulting space right now. We are doing speaking engagements and we are doing consulting for companies, and we focus on communication and brand and marketing and all of that. And so I will give people a little insight into how I go about it. I have tried to anticipate, all right, let's not think about 2020. Let's think about 2021. When do
Mhm.
I think people are going to get there? Now, with what I do, a lot of companies plan well in advance, but a lot of them are not necessarily planning huge conferences in person where I'm going to go deliver a keynote that I used to do perhaps for 600 people or 800 people,
Yeah.
sometimes more. Now it might be this little camera. So if I'm going to play the game now that people are playing themselves within an organization, then I've got to prepare myself for that. And I've got to anticipate, all right, what are they going to need? So then I better build a couple of virtual keynotes, or I better adapt the workshops that I do down to a
Mhm.
sizable bite-sized McNugget, if you will, kind of version where the audience is anticipating maybe only an hour and a half instead of my 8-hour day. So
Right.
you have to think ahead. And I think so. If our industry is that, where's the convention space really going to go? I think it's going to still stay shrunk for a little while, and we're going to be
Mhm.
doing a lot more of this. So I have to ramp that up, as do you. Now, if you're in the
Yeah.
banking industry, you have to start forecasting, how can I help people manage this? Now, if you're talking about a side hustle, well, maybe your
Yeah.
side hustle is a little 1 hour private consulting business that you do, where
Yeah.
you make it real personal, real family oriented, where somebody doesn't have to go into a bank branch or a financial institution where they manage money or are, financial planners, and you're doing it in their home, maybe with a mask, maybe you're doing it online, and you provide a new value. And honestly, it might only be 2-3 hours a month, but
Yeah.
your side gig pays you X per hour because you're delivering something. All of a sudden, if it turns into something big, you might be saying to yourself, you know what? I don't know that I need, I'll just throw out names, Edward D. Jones or whatever other
Yeah.
company that you might,
Yeah.
might be with. I'm not picking on anybody. That's a good brand name, but you
Yeah.
might want to take it into your own hands, just like you did and just like I did.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think that just takes time, right? You have to
Mhm.
start somewhere, and there's a place where you have to really be intentional. So two thoughts. One is you've got to be really intentional of like, is your side hustle just something you enjoy that provides some extra cash, or is it something that you really want to
Mhm.
build into that next chapter of your career in life? And I think it's really important to make that distinction. And it's not to say that something that starts small starts to grow into what that next chapter can be, but you've got to be mindful of it. There was a saying that that I heard and I really liked, especially when I was in that place when I was at the race team before I was making.
By the way, go ahead. Keep going. I'm looking at questions. By the way, go ahead.
Cool. Where I was making that pivot, and there's a saying that says you can only have your foot on the dock and a foot in the boat for so long before you end up with your ass in the water. So you have to sort of be mindful of where you are in the stage of what that side hustle will be. To build on your anticipation piece, which I agree 100%, I think as having that mindset of where are things going, asking that question and anticipating is huge. The other thing, what I often do, I mean, I'm giving a virtual talk tomorrow for a financial services company for their fall program, and I start off right out the bat when I'm talking with the meeting planner saying, "What do you want them walking away with?"
There you go. That's it.
Right? So I believe that there's the anticipation, because I was anticipating on the front end. I had my questions around, well, would you want this, this, and this? But then there's also being direct and saying, what is it that you want? And then how do we bring it together? I bring that in because that's where, as we're talking about anticipating the needs of what we have to bring for the future, you can do that internally, but there's nothing wrong with talking to your current employer and saying, here are some of the anticipated needs I see coming down the line. What do you see? And it becomes more of a collaboration.
No, it needs to be a collaboration. So back to where we are. What will you need? We're talking about career now. What will you need for anticipating, right? What will they want? What are employers looking for? Now, with that, and let me just go back to refresh everybody to what our topic is today. We're anticipating the future. Anticipating the future, what you'll need for what they might want. Because we're in a situation in this economy, and here we are in an election as well. We don't know. I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty there's a lot of unknowns. So, and I actually love this. I enjoy the process. I probably am guilty of overthinking a lot of things, but I spend a lot of time, Mike. I spend a lot of time.
I'm in the same boat, brother. I know.
And ideas, and I believe ideation and people and think tanks is one of the most valuable things you can possibly do with time. So there's a lot of companies, and I've been a part of them, where we'll all sit around in a room and we talk about today's meeting, and we're going to try to grow the company. We're going to do this, and this. Actually, as opposed to just always executing things or saying you're going to do this and you're going to take care of this role and all of that, the implementation of something is great, but the ideation is where it really gets fun. Mm-hmm. And that's where you start to learn about people's leadership opportunities or leadership skills, and they raise their hand. And they get to be a part of it. So we talked a few weeks back in this show about making the most of your voice, finding your voice. Yeah. And so when it comes to anticipating, when it comes to not knowing what the future is, thinking about where everything might go and how you can stand out in that new world and develop some new skills is really important. So I challenge everybody here as you're hanging with us to start anticipating the future, what you will need for what they will want. Really important. Now, I told you, Mike, that I'd done a little research and come up with something that I think is pretty valuable. You ready?
Was this time? Were you on the Google machine looking this up?
Yeah, I was on Google. I'm a big Google guy. I lay awake at night, and when I can't, I'm addicted to my phone. Everybody that knows me knows that I spend a little bit of time on my phone. That's fine.
What's your screen time? You get your weekly report.
I don't even look at that. I don't even look at that because I spend a lot of time in front of this screen as well. Here we go. All right. This is according to the Indeed. Remember, there's the company that we all have heard of, Indeed, the Indeed Career Guide. Now, these are the top skills you need to own, according to them. Now, left to right in order, and number 11 would be on the bottom. Okay. So that's how I put this in front of everybody. So in other words, number 1 is communication, 2, leadership, 3, teamwork. Now, what you need to do when you're looking at this is you need to add the word skills next to it. So, you might be looking at computer and you're like, what? Yeah, computer skills. Okay. that's pretty accurate. I'm okay on a computer. I know how to build PowerPoints. I know how to put things together. So, to me, that's important. But let's start right up at the top. And there's a survey that I think Dale Carnegie did about the greatest value you can bring and where your economic impact is coming from. And 85% comes from your ability to be a good communicator, and 15% of your success is based on your skill set. Communication, the way you receive, the way you can project, the way you can deliver. More on that in just a little bit.
And the way
that
you connect
is number one. What's
right?
that?
And the way you connect with people. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the it's the positioning, but it's also the impact of communication to connect people together. Do they, do people want to work with the smartest person in the room all the time? No, they want to work with the person they can connect with, the person that they can say they can relate to, and that all comes back to communication.
That's right. That's a great point. I mean, you and I get the chance to kind of pick and choose who we work with or who we collaborate with. Leadership is the next one, and obviously, I think everybody is looking for a leader, not a follower. I mean, look, there's a lot of great followers out there that will do. They're task-oriented people. They're able to deliver. You say, "Hey, handle this for me," and they're able to get it done. They take marching orders well. Sometimes you can have too many leaders in the kitchen, and then it gets a little bit chaotic because people are fighting.
Who's going to do it? Yeah. Who
exactly? The third one to me is hugely important, because to me, there is no job beneath me, for sure. And I think people need, especially in this new world, new normal, to be able to say, you know what, I don't care. I'll do that. Absolutely. Not only will I do that, here's where you can set yourself apart, is by doing that job that you might not have done before, but leading other people along the way and doing it better, different, unique, with a greater impact, like taking something small, making it bigger, right?
Yeah,
that's what I think.
Well, it is, but also showing people that you're in it with them and rolling up the sleeves. Look, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago with the work I'm doing up in Pennsylvania at the farm. And I serve as the chief marketing officer up there at Pocono Organics, and there's great people. And we had this huge event that we were putting on, and the night before, we're all in this area by their greenhouses, like brooming and sweeping and cleaning things out. And one of the guys who helps on maintenance says, "What are you doing in here?" I'm like, "Man, we're in here working, and we're in here getting it done." I think it's important that people see whatever level you're at. And that wasn't an ego stroke or a humble brag. That's just saying, look, you have to put it into action. People need to see that you're not just talking about team, but you really are shoulder to shoulder with them.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have questions for us, you can put them right there on this Facebook page. We will answer them next week. We do that all the time. Or send it direct email, info@kannadvisory.com. It'll go straight into my company box, and I will see it. Back to some of these top skills. I like learning, but I like adaptability better. Adaptability meaning we've got to be able to pivot. We've got to be able to say, all right, things are a little bit different. How can I do this? So right now I'm working with a company, major Fortune 500 company, on a huge project with them, training their people on how to use this camera for better economic value for the company. The new normal, if you will, has not in-person meetings, all that stuff. Like even this picture here of a boardroom, there are not a lot of people sitting around boardrooms. Correct. And now those 12 seats or however many there are there might be seen through this camera. How can we connect? How can we warm up the room? How can we engage? How can we hold their attention? How can we deliver something memorable, repeatable, that delivers impact for the organization? So we've all got to find a way to adapt. And I joke around with people about entrepreneurship. I don't think I'm, some incredible entrepreneur. I don't know that you would say that about yourself either. We learn along the way, and we chose this route. And I've always said that I believe everybody is an entrepreneur when the day begins, if they so choose to be. You might work for a huge company, but you have to have that entrepreneurial mindset of, I'm going to take something today and make a difference for the entire organization, but I'm going to be the one behind it. I'm going to push it forward. I'm going to show leadership skills, teamwork, interpersonal. I'm going to adapt. So you use some of these tools within that. So let's keep going down the list here. What stands out to you, Mike? And I'm going to give you a chance for your main top trait here in just a minute. And I'm interested to hear what yours is, but anything on the right-hand side stand out to you? Self-management, organizational skills, problem solving?
I'm going to race to the bottom, quite honestly, with open-mindedness. I really believe that, we have to get out of this mindset of saying this is how it's done and how we do it. And I know that sounds cliche. For years, people have been saying that you can't be so rigid, but I really think in today's environment, as we're experiencing all of these seismic shifts in our lives, of personally, relationally, financially, emotionally, that we've got to keep an open mind to the possibilities of what could be, how would it turn out if I did this or tried that or thought about it this way. I really believe that that is a high value point for organizations as they are trying to figure out and anticipate what is going to be coming next. If you've got an army of people that are just used to doing it like this, and now we're and that works. That works when you're just steering the ship and you've got to make small little tacts, so to speak, right? Using that nautical example. But if you're in a radical, as we call in racing, sawing on the wheel, where you're just constantly back and forth, you have to have an open mind. You have to have that in today's world in order, not only for your peace of mind, but I think also for the fact that we have to keep growing. We have to keep adapting and learning.
Okay. I am ready now for your top trait.
Well, I'm glad you're ready. You've been waiting all this time to warm up.
I am ready. Let it rip.
So my top trait, and Craig, I typically go back to this place of mindset. I really believe that fundamentally how we approach the world, how we interact with the world, how we look at opportunities, and more importantly, how they come back to us, all starts in our own minds. And I would say one of the top traits that people need to have today in order to anticipate, but more importantly, participate in the future, is an owner's mindset.
An owner's mindset.
An owner's mindset. That's having the ability. Yeah, well, it's the difference between somebody showing up to work and checking the box and somebody showing up to work and saying, hey, is that the right size box? Is that the right, style of box? Are we doing the right things here, right? We all have people that we've seen throughout our career that are just showing up and really just, hey, I'm here to get the job done. But the people who will excel, the people who will rise to the top, the people who will have opportunities come their way, actually look at their role, their presence in a different way. And it's looking at it through the mindset and the lens of being an owner, of being, like, the difference between being invested and being vested, in my opinion. Invested is like, I'm investing my time because I'm going to get money in return. Being vested is, no, I'm in, like my time is just the cover charge to get in. Now I want to do more. How do I take on? You go, I mean, it is like that. That's just really good. Just to get in the door. Yes, you're going to show up, but now what? Now what? How are you going to act? How are you going to interact? What kind of, like you mentioned earlier, the leadership opportunities? Are you going to take the time to do it right, or just get it done? I often ask people, when they come up with a solution for a problem, I said, now, is that the easy way or is that the best way? Because oftentimes people want to go the easy way because it just helps get it done and out the door. What's the best way?
Yeah, that's good. The owner mentality. So I talk a lot about ownership of your brand and ownership of what it is you do, how you do it.
Yeah.
YOU CEO. I think you need to believe that you are the CEO of your own business, your own brand. Absolutely. Take responsibility for what it is you do, and give yourself the title of CEO in your own head. In other words, I'm my own communications officer, I'm my own marketing officer, and I am the CEO responsible for my financial future, for my financial stability, for my career. And CEOs are not all about themselves. They have to connect with other people. They have to make other people around them better. That's a challenge for all of us to do. But YOU, CEO. And I think that's really important. So I want to share just a little bit this real quick, and I'll get to my top tip here in just a second. But Jill's not here today, but she is a part of what we're doing in this Present to Win webinar series that you, Jill, and I are all about. And it is an opportunity for companies and organizations to jump on board, bring us on for an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours. We custom make that for everybody. But we talk to sales teams, we talk to marketing teams. You pick the team, and we deliver the concepts and the material. And the cool thing about it is, when Jill goes out and speaks, she speaks on a certain topic. I mean, she was an amazing salesperson and marketer at QVC. Mike talks a lot about reputation and brand and how to manage that and how to put it forward. I don't want to speak for you, but I've heard enough to know exactly the things you deliver. I talk a lot about the power of presentation and communication and how we have to own our message, share it, shape it, deliver it, and try to create that value that gets other people talking about your business. So there's lots of actionable takeaways that we have here in Present to Win. And we don't just present. We're presenting something to you that you're going to be able to use to sharpen your skills, taking them to the next level. So if we're anticipating where people are going and you bring the three of us in for a webinar, you're going to get that. And somebody in the room is getting a green shoe. And I'll explain more on that if you email info@cannadvisory.com. We've got a special going right now. You sign up in 2020. Mike knows about this. Sign up in 2020 for a webinar that we'll deliver. Hopefully we get it in person at some point, because we'd really like to do it in front of everybody, but something for 2021. Buy now, experience later, discount now, value later. All right. Enough said about that. I'm not going to keep the commercial going too long. Now,
great.
I want to talk about my top trait. And my top trait is a topic that I think you're going to enjoy jumping in on. And if you know me and what I do, you probably know where I'm probably going with this. And I don't think it's all that hard to guess, but I think it is the number one thing. If I was to tell people what you could focus on to become a true difference maker and get noticed in a noisy world, right? Getting people to focus. And that is the ability to deliver. Now, I love this picture because it shows the stress behind being a person in front of an audience and how most people feel. The number one nervous thing or fear among Americans in a survey is actually public speaking, and death is number two. And I'm blown away by that every single time.
Well, Kriag, I think the third is like visiting the dentist. I mean, to think that death and the dentist are behind getting up. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the cold air balloon. Okay, I know it never goes anywhere, and I'm not a big fan of climbing and scaling tall buildings. So the ability to deliver. And I say this because I think it's really important for people to be able to understand what comes from that. And if we can get over the fear factor with some reps, and that's what I love coaching in my workshops, is we have a chance to do a couple of things. We can sell, we can put ourselves forward, we can make the company look better. All of that is valuable today. And companies are going to be looking ahead to people who can talk about the value the company has. And the more people you have, it can't just be the CEO. It can't just be the head of marketing. It can't just be the chief communications officer for an organization that knows the story. It can't just be HR. It's got to be everybody in the pipeline that knows. So can you sell and tell the company's story? Like I don't spend a ton of time with Mike Mooney week to week, but I guarantee you, if I'm on a stage and somebody says, "Hey, you got any other speakers you could recommend to us?" And I could say, "Yeah, Mike," and I can tell Mike's story. All right, I know it. Yeah. And there are a lot of companies that I work with that don't necessarily know their own story. So the ability to deliver gives you a chance to sell three things. You sell your company, you can sell your brand, and most importantly, your biggest client is yourself. I go back to YOU CEO or CEO YOU. Think of yourself that way, and you have the chance to differentiate yourself from other people by selling yourself. All right, I'm going to let you comment on that. What's your take?
No, it's absolutely. I mean, the power of conversation, and again, the message, we talk about that. And because of social media, I mean, we've never lived in a more hyper-connected world where our voices have an opportunity to stand up and stand out. And quite honestly, I believe now a lot of the organizations almost expect people on their team. They expect their people to be out there as brand ambassadors. And they actually look at the ones who are a little bit differently, in a better one, a more positive way, the ones that are out there telling the story, sharing the story in their circles, because that is so much more impact for the organization than the organization out there with their megaphones through advertising and all the other traditional channels of communication. Again, people buy people, not the company. They buy the people first.
Yeah. Yeah, they absolutely do. And the other thing about presenting, that just one little tip for people: the next audience you're in front of, and it might be on a camera like this coming up in an hour. You might have a 10 o'clock meeting, an 11 o'clock meeting, 12 o'clock. I want you to think about the value that comes from an emotional connection with your audience. We find so often that people are ready to go, all right, here's my information points. I've got to get this across in my PowerPoint. They put 7,000 words on a screen, and then I'm sitting there focused on that. And I forget about who's the person delivering it. You've got to connect with them emotionally first before you can deliver the information. And then you leave them with emotion at the end. And that's something that I get to coach people on. So sell the company, sell the brand.
You do a great job at it, man.
And appreciate that. So I will ask this as kind of one of our final questions. And that is, can you get your resume to the head of the line? I mean, that's the challenge for everybody right now. Now, I'm not saying all these people here in this photograph are furloughed or laid off or whatever, but I'm using it as a visual to say, okay, let's assume for the sake of this conversation, Mike, that all these people are in the same industry and they're trying to find a way to stand out, and they're getting 10 minutes once they walk through that door up there to try to make a difference with somebody, or to try to get them to hire them. And the question is, everybody's got their little bag over their shoulder and their, resume in there. How do you get yours ahead in this world where we must anticipate and look at where we're going? So I'll let you talk about that, and I'll put these top skills back up there for people to take a look at one more time.
Yeah, I wanted this one thing real quick is I want to say good morning to Jason Solomonson. I just saw he tuned in here. Jason, we used your question on the front end.
Your question, Jason.
Yeah, on the front end of the show, so you need to go back and listen to that. Craig, when I look at that image that you had of the long line of people, two things came to mind, and this may not tie back to where you were going with the skills, so my apologies, but I'm just going to go with my stream of consciousness here.
Love it.
The first is that you mentioned everyone's got their bags around them going along, and my thought was, wow, okay, are those bags of skills, or is that baggage? Is that previous baggage? That people continue to carry with them as they're trying to get to the next level, as they're trying to get to that next place in their career or their life where they want to see themselves. So that was the first thought. The other is, and I'll leave that to the audience and you all to think about, right? The other is, can you get your resume to the head of the line? Well, what do you consider your resume to be? As I'm thinking about it, we have a handful of different resumes, but the two that pop out in my mind is we've got the physical paper one that we have, people are dusting off and they're refining with really great words and catchy, phrases and all those great things. And put it up on LinkedIn and all those places. The other, though, and I'm kind of looking at this as your relational resume, like that gets back to in the beginning of the conversation of the relationships we have, right? What are you doing now to nurture and build and stay connected with relationships that can be your virtual resume? Like you said before, Craig, like if you were at a place and they were looking for another speaker, you could speak about what it is that I do, as I could for you as well.
Right.
So essentially, you have become a bit of my virtual resume for others to be referring and referencing back to. So
well, this ties to you though, with everything you speak to. So maybe the third thing, or maybe this is the point you're kind of trying to make with your second one, is the resume. Yeah, there's a piece of paper that you might hand off to somebody. And it's got all these things, but I'll be honest, I've hired upwards of 10 people, and they come, and I've got resumes, and I'll start with 250 or 300. What I've always done is I've used my team to sift through, and I'll do it on my own. So I don't just totally go with them, but I'll say, hey, do me a favor, everybody. Here's 250 resumes. Knock this down to 100, and then bring me back the best 100. And then from there, we'll take it and we'll dissect it again. And we'll go, now let's knock this down to the next 50. So everybody kind of learns what stands out. And it's a good exercise, by the way. But the resume itself, I've never hired somebody, and I tell my kids this all the time, you can have the greatest stuff on paper, but ultimately, can you sell yourself?
Sure.
And I had this drill that I used to do, which I don't want to get into the whole thing. I'll use it for another topic. We'll get into it, but it's called my 3 things board. And I force a person who is interviewing with an organization to actually back up and stand there and try to deliver their resume to me. My point being that you have a great resume. I have a resume on paper as well. But what do other people say about you? Because that's one of your resumes as well. It's what the other people are going to be able to tell. Can they tell the Mike Mooney resume? Do they know the top skills that Mike has? Why should we hire Mike? We put references on there, so they better be able to know us. And if you're going to get to the front of the line, you better have a network that can help you get there as well. So with that, I want to share next week's topic, or next time we get together. And this one is all you. This is yours. You came up with this, and I really like it. You want to explain to people what we're going to be talking about?
Oh man, this was an early morning, maybe half a cup of coffee, as I was thinking about what can we talk about and what is important. And this is something, honestly, it's coming from more of a personal place as I was thinking about it, Craig. Because again, we created this space to bring people in the conversation, maybe show where there's some connections, between us all. And I've just found myself saying lately, dude, that's my little inside voice, is dude, get out of your way, man. Just get out of your way and just step into this and this, So I just thought that maybe I'm not alone. And perhaps that if we actually took some time to talk about what are those things that get in our way, what are the things that are that we find ourselves either pulling into our path because it's comfortable, or the things that we're having a hard time getting around, to help, that might be some good, healthy conversation to help people then step up your career once you step out of your own way.
Yeah. Sometimes I think I mentioned this earlier, we overthink and we get all nervous, and we lose our train, we lose our way, we lose our focus, feel stuck. We've had that topic on this program before, but sometimes you got to just quiet the noise, put the blinders on, and focus on what it is that can help you get to the next level and who you can impact along the way. So that'll be a fun topic for us to discuss. And I'm looking forward to that. Well, that does it for us here today on Thursday. Mike, always good to be with you. Elevating You is the show. We do it on Thursdays, 9 Eastern, on the Kann Advisory Facebook page. We're looking for a couple of new platforms to be able to put it out at. You will be able to find it a little bit later on LinkedIn if you follow Mike, or you connect with me on LinkedIn. Also on some of our other platforms, be it Instagram or Twitter. All right?
Yeah.
Final thought from you, Mike? I appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Tom, man. And I want to just thank everybody for carving time out of their schedule to join us. Time is so valuable these days. And thank you for investing it with us. And thank you for your involvement on the Facebook page. It's been it's been great. It's been great. Yep. Thank you.
Everybody have a wonderful day. Thanks so much for joining us. Another edition of Elevating You. We'll see you next time. Take care.